GSE students who are, thank you, Emily, who are wanting to participate in our mentorship program this year. So just some light housekeeping to get us started. You can have your video turned on or off, whatever you prefer. And we are recording, as you can see, the meeting so that the training will be available after we conclude. And we want to know who's here. So if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself in the chat. We can see your names, but you could definitely share your name, the program that you're in right now, your anticipated graduation year, and if there's anything else you'd like us to know about you. We really want to take this opportunity to get to know our students who are here today. And so speaking of getting to know each other, we want you to get to know us, your alumni engagement team. Emily and I are both new as of this year, and so we are really hoping to bring support to this valuable program that, from what we've been told, has been around for over a decade now. So it's clearly been a very successful program. And with that, we are very receptive to the feedback of both our alumni mentors and student mentees. And so, you know, if there are things that are working, that aren't working, other items that you just feel like we should know about the program, please tell us, because it really gives us an opportunity to better grow and sustain the program year after year. And so to introduce myself, my name is Lisa Himmelman, she, her. I am the Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement. I joined the team in May and have had the most wonderful experience so far being a part of the HGSE community. Prior to Harvard, I was at BU for a year, and before that, I was at Monmouth University in New Jersey for 11 years. Emily, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. Thanks for joining us this Wednesday evening to talk about mentorship and the Alumni Student Mentoring Program. As Lisa mentioned, I'm the Director of Alumni Engagement and Lifelong Career Development, so I oversee our alumni engagement and our career services teams, and I'm very excited to meet all of you. I have previously overseen mentoring programs at Bentley University and at the Sloan School at MIT, so while Hugsy is new to me, mentoring and mentoring connections between alumni and students are not. So as Lisa mentioned, please do reach out. We are always happy to hear from you. And hopefully this will leave you with fewer questions than you came in with. Well, back to you, Lisa.
Thank you very much, Emily. And I'm loving seeing all of the introductions coming into the chat and students from various programs. So thank you all for sharing a little bit about yourselves. So I'm going to get going here with an overview of the program, just so you can have a better understanding of what SAMI is. And so before I get into the details here, by a show of either actual or virtual hands, or you can note it into the chat, how many of you have participated in a mentorship program previously? I'm just curious. Excellent, excellent. So it looks like several of you have. That's great. And so it's good to know those of you who have experienced something similar to this. So SAMI is our loving acronym for the Student Alumni Mentoring Initiative. And so this initiative pairs current students with alumni for a 6-month mentorship during the academic year. And really, it focuses on your personal and professional development, career exploration, and networking. And in order to ensure that our alumni and students have a worthwhile experience and that they know the expectations of the program, there is a bit of a vetting process. And so that starts out with an application. Our alumni mentors were asked to fill out an application in August, and those were due in early September, where they could provide more context about themselves and why they're interested in being a mentor. And as you're well aware, you also had to complete an application as a student. And so our students have until tomorrow to submit their applications to us for participating. And And then our mentors were offered a voluntary training. And so alumni had the option to attend a training earlier in September where they could learn more about what the responsibilities are of being a mentor. And of course, again, you're well aware because you're here tonight, students are required to attend training. So we have a virtual training going on right now, and we have an in-person training next week. So we're very glad that all of you could be with us tonight. And I noted earlier about feedback, and so we really want to hear from you. And so if there's anything that would be helpful for next year's training that you think would be beneficial for us to include for students, please let us know. That would be great. And then finally, our team will be hand matching mentors and mentees based on similar interests, degrees, and career paths. And while we can't 100% guarantee that it's going to be the perfect match, we still feel that your mentoring relationship, this partnership, will be mutually beneficial to both you and your mentor, and will be an experience that you'll both enjoy. And so to provide further context about SAMI, I'm going to review the timeline with you. So just sort of an umbrella of what this program looks like from start to finish. So in August and September, we put out the call for mentor and mentee applications, and also have conducted and will be conducting trainings. By mid-October, we plan to notify mentors and mentees of their matches. So you will get an email from us with information about your mentor match. And then what we are hoping is that students who we really feel are kind of the owners of this partnership and kind of, take over that role in the mentorship will send an initial introduction email to their mentors to look to get a first meeting scheduled. And we know that can be a little bit daunting, right? And so if any of you are interested, we will be providing some templates for what that first email communication to your mentor could look like, and you can adapt that for your use. And so that can help kind of ease you into the start of the program. And so once we are officially launched in October, hopefully by the end of October, you will have your first meeting with your mentor, and we're going to go over more so what that initial meeting will look like. But that's really your introduction to each other and kind of setting goals and expectations for this partnership over the 6 months. And then October through April is the full 6-month duration of the program. So you'll be having monthly meetings with your mentor. You'll also have monthly communications between you and your mentor. And you'll also be hearing from us, Emily and Lisa, on a monthly basis, checking in, making sure things are going smoothly. We will be, in essence, kind of monitoring this program from our office to make sure everything is going well. And it would be, I think, helpful for all of you to kind of just have some benchmarks of what to expect over the course of the 6 months. So I mentioned October is when things kind of kick off. We hope by November that you would have set some goals for your mentor relationship, and that way your mentor can provide feedback and suggestions for next steps and what you might be working on together over these months. And then in December and going into the spring semester, you'll be tracking your progress with your mentor. Hopefully you can share some of what you learned from the fall semester, and you and your mentor can discuss that. And also maybe you can get some advice from them about the spring semester. Those of you in our 1-year program, you'll be graduating in the spring, believe it or not. And so you may want to hear a little bit more about what that's going to look like and how to be better prepared for graduation and what follows. And then finally, as we get to April, that's when the program will conclude. So you'll have your wrap-up meeting with your mentor, and we're going to be going over that meeting agenda as well. And you can decide at that point if you want to stay in touch. Now, the official program will end, and so our team won't be moderating the relationships at that point. But if you do want to continue meeting with your mentor, communicating with your mentor, by all means, please do that, and you both can determine what that will look like. So before I move on to understanding mentorship, are there any initial questions about the program overview and just generally what SAMI is? Okay, awesome. So now we're going to get into the next portion of our presentation, which is understanding mentorship. And so starting with the mentees, some mentee do's and don'ts. And so we really feel that you should establish an agreement and set expectations with your mentor. I talked before about how as the mentee, you really should feel like you have ownership over this relationship and that you are really working in partnership with your mentor to reach the goals that you set with them that will help propel you into your future careers and really help you through your time at HGSE. And so that's why kind of having an agreement with your mentor for what that will look like is really important, and setting those expectations. And with that, definitely take initiative with the connection, advocate for yourself, and set those clear, achievable goals. And we'll talk a little bit more about how you can set those goals in the upcoming slides. And definitely listen to your mentor's suggestions, insights, and experiences. That's what they're there for. Of course, you will ultimately make the decisions that are best for you, but we ask that you have an open mind to what your mentor suggests, because you'll definitely be learning from them, and you might be surprised by what they have to say. So it's important to listen. Don't assume that your mentor will have a path to employment. There isn't the expectation that this is going to lead to a job or that your mentor will provide an internship. Really, your mentor is a guide and a support, and that should be emphasized when you're going through mentorship. Don't feel badly if you need to rearrange or cancel a meeting. Life happens. We're all very busy, completely understandable. And so if that does need to happen, just make sure you communicate it with your mentor, and hopefully you can work with them to find an alternate time to meet that month. And then again, kind of harkening back to this theme of support, please don't hesitate to reach out to the alumni engagement team with any issues or challenges that you may be facing. So before I kind of go over this what mentor is not slide, I thought this would be a great opportunity to hear from a few of you, whether you raise your hand and kind of speak audibly, or maybe Emily, you can help me with the chat. But I really just love to hear what mentorship means to you, kind of what ideas you had about mentorship coming into this training, or what do you want to get out of mentorship? So I'll give you an opportunity to respond.
People are thinking, people are looking reflective.
I know I kind of put all of you on the spot, so that's totally fine.
Right, that's right. Oh, I've never seen that emoji before. Someone put up a little away emoji. Okay.
Oh. Well, I can definitely give all of you some time to brainstorm. Again, it's kind of a big question to ask for, an immediate response, and I'm sure there will be even more ideas by the end of the presentation. But to discuss what a mentor is not. So a mentor isn't a therapist. They aren't a career coach. They're not an academic advisor. Really, mentorship helps to guide a student and not tell them a prescribed path in which they should definitely take. Really, mentorship is a process where an experienced individual, and so in this case, it would be an alum, would help another person, so in this case, a student, through ongoing and supportive conversations and learning exercises. And really, mentors are there to engage and participate in this process with their mentee and provide their insights, guidance, and support based on their own personal experiences. So their experiences in their careers and when they were students. These are folks who have been in your shoes before, and so that's one of the many reasons why they're such a valuable resource, because they can share with you what helped them navigate being a student and then post-graduation. But with that, your mentor may not have all the answers, and that's perfectly okay. Students have a wealth of resources, and I'm sure you're aware of many of them already. But just to name a few, there are academic advisors and academic guides. There's the Office of Student Affairs, and there's the Career Services Office. And so these are some supports in place that you can access as a student and really will work hand in hand with your mentor, and they all kind of supplement each other in some way.
Lisa, we now do have some comments I'd just like to read aloud. Jennifer shares with us that she would want to learn about the mentor's career paths, what got them to where they are, what challenges they faced, lessons they've learned, and professional insights they're willing to share as she moves through her career. I think that's great. That's exactly what a mentor should do. And I know that our alums are ready to do that. And Kelly shares, a mentor is someone a bit further ahead on the journey who can talk about the things that they did or trip them up on the way. Yes, you definitely want to learn from your mentor's failures, right? Not just their successes. Where can they steer you in the right direction? And Elizabeth shares, a mentor can be someone to support you in your experiences. They may or may not have gone through the same experience. Yes, many times they won't have, particularly if they have been out of Hugsy for quite some time now. But in general, they are there to offer support. Yes, and if they are not offering support, then you need to be in touch with Lisa and me. But we have a great group for you all, so I'm excited for our matches. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Emily. What excellent insights. I appreciate those comments. And so I kind of alluded to this earlier, but this is a sample agenda for your initial meeting with your mentor. So this is the meeting that will hopefully take place by the end of October. So you'll start out with introductions and getting to know each other, and discuss what your expectations are for your mentoring connection. So expectations around monthly meetings, communications, what you're looking to get out of mentorship, what the mentor is hoping to get out of the partnership, and just sort of being on the same page. You'll start articulating your goals for your mentoring connection, and again, what you want to get out of it, and what you think what you're hoping your mentor can provide you. And then we would highly suggest scheduling your next meeting and beyond if you can. By setting a monthly meeting date and time, it really holds both you and your mentor accountable, and gets those meetings on the schedules, and hopefully from month to month you can keep those meetings. But again, going back to the do's and don'ts, don't hesitate to make some changes if you need to. You'll want to clarify your outreach in between meetings, and also your preferred method of contact. And so your monthly meetings, they may be in person if you live in the same area as your mentor. They might be virtual via Zoom, maybe it'll be a phone call. But in terms of outreach in between meetings, you're going to want to consistently try to stay in touch with each other. So the frequency of those communications, are you sending emails, twice in between the meeting, or is it just one time that you connect from one meeting to the next? And also, that method of contact. So it could be email, maybe it's a text, maybe it's a quick call. Just ensuring, again, there's that consistency and that you're staying in touch with each other. And then definitely get excited. You and your mentor will be off to a great start. This is going to be a very enjoyable experience, and that's really what we're aiming for. And we're excited to see how your mentoring partnerships blossom over the course of these 6 months. And so in thinking about goal setting, this is a framework that we are pointing people to. And I'm curious, is there anyone who's heard about the SMART goals framework? You can feel free to raise your hand. I see some nods too, so that's good. Not a requirement if you haven't heard of it, but it's just good to get a sense if you have. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. And this is just one of many frameworks that could be really helpful for you as you're setting goals with your mentor. And it can be something that you bring to that initial meeting to talk with them about. And we also went over the SMART goals framework with the mentors as well. At the end of the day, mentorship is more than asking for a job or expanding your LinkedIn network. You want this to be a strategic, beneficial relationship, and using a goal setting framework like SMART can really help you achieve that.
Did we lose you, Lisa?
No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Now we can, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Had some internet issues earlier, so hopefully I stick around. Okay, so now we're moving on to the closure conversation. So this is the conversation that will help, that will come up in April. So some things that you want to make sure you touch on with your mentor. Did you achieve your learning goals? What was successful about your mentoring connection? And that could be directly tied to the goals that you set. Was there a specific insight or approach or a perspective that you gained from the mentoring relationship, especially maybe something that you wouldn't have gotten if you hadn't participated in the mentorship program? Is there anything that you're going to do differently or make an effort to try to do in your next mentoring connection? So you might decide in the future that you want to participate in a mentorship program. You may eventually be a mentor yourself. And so you would have learned from this process, and you can bring that into that next opportunity. And then, do you want to continue to be in contact? And so we talked about this before. And if you do, on what basis? Is it still monthly? Is it quarterly? Is it a quick email, hi, how are you? And so just kind of thinking about that. And so before I move on to the next section, I just want to again open it up to any questions about understanding what mentorship is. All right, excellent. You all are doing great. So now I am in the program expectations portion of our program tonight. And so just kind of talking through the expectations of both mentors and mentees. So when it comes to mentors, and these are the expectations that we've reviewed with them as well, we're expecting that they will commit to at least one 30-minute meeting per month for 6 months, and that they're going to come prepared to those meetings. And that there will be an agreed upon communication schedule and timely responses and outreach to their mentees. And so our hope is that mentors will respond to your communication within 24 to 48 business hours. And even if it's just a placeholder email saying, hey, I got your message. I can't give you a full answer right now, but I'll be back in touch in a few days, just so that the mentor is checking your messages and able to respond. We do really want mentors to seek opportunities for their mentees' growth and share resources that have helped them. So this is a chance for them to share ideas and supports that help them through their time as a current student. But then also would help them navigate the graduation process and then moving on post-graduation. And with this, we want our mentors to be as open and honest as they're comfortable with. And so as Emily was reading your comments before, we want our mentors to share their failures, to share their triumphs, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. This is all valuable information that you can learn from. And then we want them to be communicating progress, questions, and concerns with our team. And then in terms of mentee expectations, you can see some overlap here. You're probably not surprised to see that. So again, committing to at least one 30-minute meeting per month for the 6 months, defining and discussing your goals and expectations with your mentor, and agreeing to that communication schedule. And just like we would expect with the mentor, we also expect that mentees will be responding in a timely manner as well. Attending one required mentee training. You can check that off the list because you're here now, which is awesome. And I talked a little bit earlier about advocating for your role and your needs in the mentoring relationship. You definitely have the ability to do that, and really encourage you to do that to ensure that at the end, you're able to achieve the goals that you set out for when you joined this program. And just like with the mentors, please communicate with us your progress, your questions, your concerns. We are here for you. And, you know, again, related to kind of these supports in place, we don't expect there to be issues, but we definitely have a safety net in place in case things happen. So if you haven't heard from your mentor for an extended period, please feel free to communicate with them and check in, and hopefully you will hear back from them. And, you know, of course, if you don't, let us know. And if you ever feel uncomfortable with an exchange or, you know, a question or a situation that came up with your mentor, you can definitely feel free to talk very directly to your mentor about what happened if you feel comfortable and positioned to do that. But if you don't, please feel free to escalate the matter to us, and we will work with you to figure out a resolution. And then finally, if you have any concerns or you need anything else, our team is here to support you. Emily and I both moderate our alumni inbox. So that's alumserve@gsc.harvard.edu. And that's the email box that you should be contacting with any questions, concerns, or issues. So before I move on to our final portion here, are there any questions about program expectations? Okay, wonderful. So now the really exciting part of our program tonight. You know, we know that some of you have had some past experience with other mentorship programs, but we really wanted you to hear from some former students who have participated in the program as a mentee. So it is my pleasure to introduce Charlotte Evans, EDM 2019, and Lindsay Trujillo, EDM 2020, to share their experiences with all of you. So Charlotte, can you please start us off?
For sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Charlotte Evans. It's nice to meet you all on Zoom. Lisa, how much time should I chatter away for?
I think you probably have, what do you think, Emily, 10 minutes?
10 minutes would be great.
Perfect. Cool. So a little bit about me. I am currently based in San Francisco. I work for Coursera as a solutions consultant. I've been with the company since I graduated from Hugsy in 2019, and I was in the International Education Policy Program, which I don't think exists anymore, but it was a beautiful program while it was alive. And before that, I was in Asia for about 5 years working in higher education. So when I came to Hugsy, it was a bit of a career pivot, life pivot, moving back to the United States. And while there was an abundance of resources on campus, in particular the Career Services Office, I felt like I kind of wanted to have a bit more of a fully baked answer before I started going to resumes and applying for jobs, and also wanted to just really maximize my time on campus. I don't know if any of you are feeling this, but it seems like there are about 7,852 ways I could have lived out that 10 months on campus. But we are only one human, one body. So there was a lot of stress of, am I going to do it wrong? Am I really utilizing the time well? How do I have fun? dare I say, while also learning things. And so I was paired with Claudia, who is a wonderful, wonderful mentor. And we would meet monthly. I kind of thought of her like my Boston mom. Don't tell my actual mother that I said that. But she would take me out to eat and we would sit and chat about how the courses were going. And she would share about her experiences while she was there. I'd have these kind of knots that I wanted to untangle with her, whether it was not sure how to navigate a course I was really struggling with. And everyone else seemed to be so put together in my course and like they all had it figured out. And was I the only one that was finding this actually quite difficult? And how did she approach difficult courses while she was there? And what strategies did she take on and help me think through how I was going to navigate it? Or I kind of want to have a paycheck when I graduate. So how do I think about my career strategy? What steps did she take during the year to juggle both taking the coursework and thinking about what happens afterwards? And so it was really nice to just have a sounding board while I was there. I did hear from other classmates that their conversations were less productive. And part of the reason why is because they would go into the sessions and say, mentor me. And then their mentor would be like, there are so many things that we could talk about right now. I don't actually know what you're struggling with or what you want to get out of this relationship or this conversation. And it would be like pulling ideas out of a hat, being like, is this one interesting to you? And oftentimes it wouldn't resonate. So I actually really like, I'm going to try and find it for you all. There's a HBR article, What Mentors Wish Their Mentees Knew. It's from 2017, so it's a little outdated. But there's some interesting stuff in here about kind of thinking about that managing up aspect of the relationship. And if you want to get the most out of it, kind of thinking a little bit of an agenda for the conversation. It feels kind of rigid to go in with that. But I think in the same way that you can go into an office hours with a faculty member, having a purpose for why you're stepping through that door is really useful. And it doesn't have to be the same through thread for every single conversation. I dabbled between talking about career things, talking about moving back to the United States and things I was finding strange about being back. I would talk about how cold it was in Boston, and I had lived in Singapore. I was freezing and she traveled. And so we relate about that. So there's really a bunch of things that you could talk about, but having that structure and not just kind of waiting for the mentorship to waft over me was I think quite important in making the relationship valuable. I actually became a mentor 2 years ago for somebody who was doing part-time study and found that having been in the mentee shoes, it was then quite useful to think about the mentorship side of things and really enjoyed those conversations as well. From a mentor perspective, it was like peak nostalgia opportunity. I was exhausted during Hugsy, but I was longing for it as a mentor again. So that was really, really nice. And just to kind of be able to share those experiences and create a sense of community during COVID in particular, when we were all remote, was really valuable for me. So there's definitely a reason the mentors are also signing up for it. And I would talk pretty openly about the why behind it with my mentee. And I think it's a valuable question, right? Because everyone's doing it as a volunteer. So to figure out why they're doing something for free is a good way to figure out on how to take advantage of the opportunity and align on that. But yeah, overall, really positive experience. I'm envious of you all that you're about to embark on these next 6 or so months. And yeah, one of my favorite moments from graduation was walking down the hall and seeing Claudia in her hat leading me to my seat. It was such a nice closing moment after all of her support throughout the year. So I'm so excited for you all to be able to indulge in this, and also happy to connect if that would be useful as you're navigating. SAMI and Hugsy, you can find me on LinkedIn. Spiel over.
Okay, and now we have Lindsay. Next, we have two former mentees for you this evening. So we'll move to Lindsay. Thank you, Charlotte.
Perfect. Thanks, Charlotte. So probably a lot of similarities, some differences between our experiences, but just as way of introduction, I'm Lindsay Trujillo, recently graduated in May, so just went through this whole program a year ago right now, so definitely feeling where you were at in your shoes. Prior to attending Hugsy, I was a former Chicago Public Schools teacher, and then enrolled in the ELOE program last year. So new program being rolled out last year. But kind of similar to Charlotte, Hugsy was really a pivot point for me. I really wanted to step away from the classroom and kind of make a move toward policy, ed consulting, that sort of thing. So definitely a big life shift, moving from Chicago to Boston as well. I had just gotten married like a month prior, so lots of things going on, lots of moving parts. Funny enough, Charlotte and I just recognized that we had the same mentor, which was Claudia. But similar, I really wanted to join the SAMI mentorship program to really take advantage of some of the things that I wanted to get out of Hugsy. Coming into last year, a lot of stuff because of COVID, a lot of the in-person events and that sort of thing were limited. And so this was such a great way to connect with an alumni who might not otherwise be on campus for things or that sort of thing because of COVID restrictions. This was just a really great way to connect with someone outside of my friend group, my family group, my immediate classmates. I really wanted just another outside opinion, just honestly for insight and advice, both in navigating all these changes. So again, I was paired with Claudia, had a really, really great experience. We met mostly on Zoom, but toward the end, we were able to meet in person, which was a great mix, which I know some folks are in the Boston area, some folks aren't. So totally was great both ways. Thinking about navigating that relationship, I had never been in a mentorship program specifically. I had mentors as a teacher, but it was never structured. It was never an actual thing. It was just kind of someone I would naturally go to and kind of became a natural mentor. So this was totally new to me, and I'm sure there's a lot of you that were kind of in the same boat. So I think some of the tips that were really helpful for me was in that first meeting, really just sharing about your background. And being very open and honest about maybe some of your concerns, some of your challenges. Your mentor isn't there as, it's not a job interview. It's definitely just to try to have someone else to understand where you're coming from, understand those different things, and have kind of an outside perspective. It was really nice to have someone who hadn't known me in my former career, wasn't a person, wasn't my partner, wasn't my parents, wasn't even a friend from undergrad, from college, was someone who just didn't know me. And so it gave a real chance to kind of explain some things that you sometimes don't explain out loud. Sometimes you're thinking them in your head, but you're not explaining them out loud. And so it was a really great opportunity to do that. Secondly, it was a really great opportunity to explain courses and course decisions, especially going into spring semester. There's so many choices. Cross-registering is a whole nother animal. That's great experience, but it's just a lot. And so just being able to explain your thought process behind the courses really gave me some comfort in thinking I'm making the right choices, making the right selection, and having someone who wanted to listen about that as well, because that process can be just really overwhelming when there's a million choices and you want to take every single class. And then thirdly, and probably the biggest priority that's on people's mind, especially spring semester, as Charlotte mentioned, most of us want a paycheck when we graduate. And so just being able to kind of almost just play with ideas too and get insights and understand. For me, I knew the teaching landscape, I knew the classroom landscape, but I didn't know anything outside of that. You know, the world of nonprofits and foundations and all of that stuff was totally new to me. So just trying to navigate that and kind of just as a sounding board of thoughts you're having and different things, and not necessarily that your mentor will be able to tell you specific organizations, but they might have heard of something, or, you know, might have heard of one you might want to check out because of your interests or something like that. So that was really helpful too, even just as a way to explain your thinking out loud, that you might be having it kind of stuck in your head, but being able to get it out loud makes you verbalize it and makes you think through it as you're going. Also, another thing as well that Charlotte brought out was kind of coming with some ideas. The mentors are probably, especially those first couple, there's so many things to unload. They'll probably have tons of questions about your background and courses and that sort of thing. But really just thinking, you know, even spending just 10 minutes sometime before your meeting, thinking about if you are really having any concerns, it's really good reflection time for yourself anyway. And so just thinking about, even if it's not a written out agenda, just at least having some things in your head, especially as those meetings go on and it gets closer to spring. Also, I think, I know it was mentioned, but just those communications was super helpful for me, not just the Zoom meetings, but also just those quick email communications. I know with Claudia, she had a former classmate that was teaching courses. And so we were kind of emailing back and forth about that and just little things that I'd heard, or I had heard of an organization I knew she had been a part of at one point. So it was, hey, have you heard of this? What are your thoughts? Do you have anything about it? Those quick ones were really helpful, the one-off emails, just to stay in contact. I think I was just thinking of the challenges and the most rewarding part. I think one of the challenges, as mentioned, was just carving out that time. When you're at Hugsy, you have all these classes, a million events, a million things, people you're also trying to network with. So just carving out time. So I think it was really important to set those meetings and just have them on your calendar and kind of almost think of it as a study group or as a class or as a standing meeting. Was really helpful, but naturally things come up, everyone's flexible, but that was good to just have as a standing meeting. That helped. So carving out time was just tricky, but there was definitely value to it. And then just, I think the most rewarding part too was, like I mentioned, it was just another person to hear your thoughts, to be a reflection time, to really think about it. I think that was the most rewarding for me, was to have someone just on the outside looking in. They had no actual, kind of mentioned this is a volunteer opportunity. There's no dog in the fight or anything. They just are there to help, and that's it. And it's not necessarily a job interview. It's not anything. It's just someone who really can just give you their thoughts. And not saying you have to take everything they say, take it all with a grain of salt, but just use it to help in your process and to help yourself think through ideas and different things and just an outside perspective. So yeah, I think that was about it.
Excellent. Charlotte and Lindsay, thank you so much. That was so insightful and helpful. So I wanted to give an opportunity for our students here today to ask both of you some questions. To our attendees, if you have any questions for Lindsay or Charlotte, please feel free to raise your hand or put them in the chat. I see some positive feedback coming into the chat.
What a relief. We didn't totally botch it.
No, this is awesome. Yeah, so then, at this point, we're really at the end of our program. So you can feel free to ask questions to Lindsay or Charlotte, but you can also ask questions to us. Any, last thoughts or questions that you may have about the SAMI program. This would be the time. Yes, Kelly, go ahead.
So, do everyone who's on this meeting, are we being paired with someone, or are there more people on this meeting than there are mentors?
Everyone who's participating tonight is going to be paired with a mentor. We have many alumni who signed up to be mentors. And so we are going to be doing our best to make those matches accordingly. And so the fact that all of you participated tonight is really the best place to start, because these trainings are required. And so students really need this in order to get involved with the program. So does that help answer your question, Kelly? Hopefully.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Oh, great. Okay. Oh, Alexa, I see your question. Do mentors only take one mentee at a time? We do give the option for mentors to take 2 mentees, but just given the way the program is structured this year, our expectation is that all of our mentors will have 1 mentee, so it will be a 1-to-1 match. So I see Jennifer said, thank you to Lindsay and Charlotte. And asked, there's some nuggets of information / insight that you learned from your mentor that you still remember or could share with us?
Lindsay, you want to go first? I'm looking at my text thread with Claudia to see what my insights are.
Yeah, I think I was trying to think, but one that really stuck out with me was I remember talking to her about trying to decide for my spring schedule, classes, cross-registering, all this stuff. There's so many options. And I was kind of giving some thoughts and some different things. And one that stuck out to me was there was a class I was maybe going to sign up for that was kind of out of my wheelhouse. And she was just mentioning to me during her time in the doctoral program that she took a couple classes that were totally out of her wheelhouse. Someone just said, hey, go to the preview, try it out. And she ended up loving it. And it ended up being kind of what it was around negotiations. And she ended up having her thesis ended up being around negotiations with a school union. And so it was just a really good example of maybe if something isn't quite up your alley, here's the time to try it out. You're here, Charlotte mentioned you're there 10 months. Like, you obviously want to maximize what you came for, but sometimes look at those ones that might be on the fringes or go to a preview and you might end up really enjoying it. And it could, shift where you're going to go, or just be a great experience. So that was really a good push to just try some new stuff out while you're here.
Okay, the text searching was valuable. Here's what she wrote to me as I was panicking about making the wrong job choice decision. She said, trust your gut. In the end, after all the analyses and weighing of facts, I say, go with that gut feeling. How's that for sound advice? Right? I mean, it's like a hyper nerdy group of people at Hugsy who are looking for like data analyses and like something that they can do in Stata that will tell them that they've made the right life choice. And sometimes I would go into analysis paralysis. And so she would often bring me back down to earth and remind me that none of the decisions that we are making in those 10 months are particularly like chiseling your life in stone. There are opportunities to continue pivoting and growing and reskilling down the line. And so just using every opportunity to really maximize what you're doing and make the choice and then lean into it and be fully present instead of thinking about all the other iterations I could have done. I think that was just really helpful. Again, kind of in that 10 months timeline. I would often wonder if I was there to really learn a lot of hard skills, like in the courses. It was less about kind of makes me sound so introverted, less about the social opportunities and more about the like, how can I progress my career? And sometimes I wondered if I was being super lame by choosing that pathway. And she would talk a lot about the academics side of things with me, and that was something she really leaned into as well. And so it was nice to have that.
That's awesome. Lindsay and Charlotte, thank you so much for sharing that, and it just sort of, harkens back to the idea of being willing to listen. And because you might be surprised. And, Charlotte, I really can relate to what you're saying about, expect the unexpected and trusting your gut, which I think is great advice, honestly. And I know in my experience, there's been many times where I trusted my gut and it led me in the right direction. So